Good evening. Let me try this once again. My name is 12 Gauge, and this is my channel 12 Gauge Investigative. That last live was going totally nowhere, and I guess it was because it was something that was predestined to happen a night ago. Well, if you're watching this one, I had to reboot my router, everything else, and we're going to try this again. I'm going to talk about some killers that have been notable for killing on campus. We may know a lot of these, we may know the ins and outs, but never really the what, the how, the when, the where. Because let's start with one of the most notorious cases we've ever heard of, John Hinckley, Austin, Texas, in the 60s. Climbed the tower at UT and started shooting students from the tower. I think that's what his name was. I might have that wrong. But he climbed up the water tower, not the water tower, the UT tower, and started killing students. Started killing them for no reason in 1966. And the reason will never be known. His name was Charles Whitman. I don't know where I got John Hinckley from, my bad. Charles Whitman. And he is the first of many. No real motive, no real reason that we've ever heard of. Started shooting from the tower in UT, University of Texas, 1966. And then we get to this man that I'm going to broadcast right now, and hopefully this will continue to be a smooth live. Here we go. His name is Ted Bundy.
My name is Ted Bundy. I've never spoken to anybody about this.
30 years after he was executed, notorious serial killer Ted Bundy is having his story retold in documentaries and crime series this year. The Netflix original Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes, uses video and audio recordings of interviews with Bundy to get inside his mind.
So, right there, he says, I'm just a normal individual. Think about that a little bit. We want to normalize serial killers. We want to normalize individuals that do evil to people. but we never really understand it. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? We never really dive in to understand their minds because they're so different. They're so different. This one had charisma. This one had charismatic ways about him, his personality. He was in the spotlight, wanting to be amongst the people. Used a lot of props to lure people into his deviancy. And I always talk about that when it comes to one of the individuals that we speak on all the time on this channel, Brian Koberger, the chameleon effect. And if you don't know about the chameleon effect, I want you to get very versed on that because that is a real thing. That is a real thing. So let's listen a little bit more about Ted Bundy.
I mean, I'm just a normal individual.
So, who was he, and why are true crime fans still fascinated with him decades later?
Ted Bundy killed more people in more states than anyone we've ever heard of.
He was born Theodore Robert Cowell in 1946 to an unwed mother and was partially raised by his grandparents. He moved around the country as a child, eventually landing in Washington state, where his mother married a man named John Bundy. Biographers say he was bright and charismatic. His good looks and charm helped him gain acceptance into political circles.
He could be the guy next door. Your fiance, your husband, your boyfriend, your lover. And then that.
See, so listening to that attribute, think about that a little bit. He could be your brother, he could be your lover, he could be anybody really close to you. Now, isn't that more scary to know that somebody that approachable can be one of the individuals who killed more people than anyone else in this country? That is more scary than to think that somebody is the weirdo in the back of the room, unapproachable, all that stuff. You can see that from a mile away. But when it came to Ted Bundy, a lot of people couldn't see it, and it got them killed, unfortunately.
An evening, by his own determination, at his own discretion, transform himself into perhaps the most diabolical killer we've ever known.
He enrolled in law school in 1973, but by the following year seemed to lose interest and dropped out. While authorities don't know when Bundy first started to kill, the earliest crimes they were able to link to him were in Washington state in 1974. A college student was badly beaten and sexually assaulted in her basement apartment.
Badly beaten and sexually assaulted. So to say that there's such things as, well, they had to know the people in order for them to kill them. There had to be a motive of knowing these people in order to kill them. With many of the cases that we cover these days, there doesn't necessarily have to be any of that. If you're listening to what happened in this case, badly beaten and sexually assaulted.
And after that, young women in the state started disappearing every month until the summer. Around that time, Bundy moved to Utah, where authorities say his killing spree continued.
The cute driver leaned over and rolled down the passenger window and asked me if I'd like a ride.
Rhonda Stapley claims she encountered Bundy one night while she was waiting for a bus. She says he offered her a ride and she accepted.
I thought that he was going to kiss me. Instead, he said very quietly, "Do you know what? I'm going to kill you."
Stapley claims he drove her to a remote area where he tried to strangle her, but she escaped. Many other victims weren't so lucky. Bundy admitted to killing at least 30 women, abducting, raping, and strangling them. He also revisited his crimes by going back to view the corpses he left behind or bringing them home and continuing to assault.
Are you listening to what this is saying? This man is a monster, was a monster. There's nothing charismatic about the way that he killed these women. There's nothing enjoyable about the way he did these crimes. But yet, many people were fascinated with him because of what he did to people. how he did it, and the fascination with the ability to possibly emulate him.
Them, sometimes sexually. Deborah Jean Kent went missing from her high school in Utah in 1974.
I sat in the police station listening to his voice and listening to that horrible tape of him saying that he had followed my sister from the auditorium or whatever it was. And that is the first time I'd ever felt anger and hate. And I was physically ill.
Bundy was arrested in Utah in 1975 after being placed under surveillance for suspicious activity. He was arrested and convicted of kidnapping and assault of one victim. He escaped custody, but was recaptured in Colorado. He escaped once again in 1977 and made his way to Florida, where investigators say he claimed 6 more lives. Once again, it was a traffic violation that brought him down. He was put on trial in which he partially defended himself. Bundy was convicted of murder, but that didn't stop him from trying to carry on with his life.
Will you marry me? Yes. And I do hereby marry you. Thank you.
Bundy proposed to Carol Ann Boone in court during the sentencing phase of his trial. They dated before his initial arrest, and when she had a daughter in 1982, with Bundy behind bars, she named him as the father. But the defiant move didn't sway a judge who handed down a death sentence in this case.
It is further ordered that on such scheduled date that you be put to death by a current of electricity sufficient to cause you immediate death.
The punishment has done little to comfort the families he devastated. The mother of victim Denise Naslund says her daughter's murder ruined her life.
I developed agoraphobia, and I don't go out anymore.
I mean, there's a mother right there that said that his killing her daughter ruined her life. When I was talking about this the other day, I was talking about this, about the families left behind, about certain individuals and all these crimes when people are left behind to pick up the pieces of individuals they never knew existed, and the only correlation they have to these people was that they killed their loved ones. How could you ever overcome that? You know, I've heard countless people, because I've sat in panels where drunk drivers are forced to listen to the families of the individuals of whom they killed while being under the intoxicated state. I've sat and listened to those, and they're heartbreaking. They're heartbreaking to hear these families talking to these individuals about what they left behind after killing their loved ones.
In this house 24 hours a day, it's like dying. I just think of how things were before Ted Bundy came into our lives. Nothing's the same anymore.
While he confessed to many crimes, investigators say he recanted many statements and couldn't be trusted to tell the truth. Ted Bundy was executed by electric chair in Florida on January 24th,
I mean, maybe that's why in another case that we all like to follow, how come the judge stated in that case that maybe the individual wasn't able to tell the truth? Maybe that is one of the reasons why we didn't hear from this individual. Here's another individual that is very disturbed. Um, he killed individuals not by knife. Well, he did use a knife. He killed his roommates with a knife, and then he went on a shooting spree and ended up taking himself out. He's been martyred by individuals that call themselves incels. And this individual wrote a manifesto, but he himself had issues with women living on campus, dating certain type of men. He tried to kill people in a sorority. And fortunately, he couldn't get in, but he found two women that were walking, and he killed one and badly injured the other one. His name is Elliot Roger.
Shootings through the streets were done, police would still discover more. Those 3 bodies found in the alleged shooter's apartment, and that's not all they found. ABC's Clayton Sandell tonight with more on that manifesto as investigators try to peer into the mind of the killer. Clayton?
Good evening, David. Tonight you can see this small memorial, some candles and flowers for the 3 men that police say Elliot Roger killed inside his apartment complex here. But like so many things about this case, the victims were discovered only after this violent rampage ended. Tonight, so many clues in hindsight, puzzle pieces put together too late.
Elliot Roger here.
Elliot Roger left disturbing hints, starting with those chilling YouTube videos.
I'll be a god, exacting my retribution and all those who deserve it.
And this 100.
And I've done lives on this individual as well. So if you want to go back into my library on my channel, feel free and watch these videos and length. There are quite lengthy ones. I'm merely using him as an example tonight to show you the different variations of different types of mindsets where people really don't understand the correlation between all these individuals. And I hope by the end of this live tonight, you do see the correlation, because you have to look and listen to the person as they speak rather than gain your own assumption of who they are.
41-page manifesto detailing the troubled life of an alleged killer, from childhood bullying, sibling rivalry, fantasies about killing his father and stepmother, and his most repeated grievance, being rejected by women.
Girls gave their affection and sex and love to other men, but never to me. I'm 22 years old and I'm still a virgin.
He was really upset about why is the world so unfair to him, and like, oh, I'm a good looking guy, and why a girl's falling for those ugly fat guys. That's what he mentioned. And I told him appearance is not everything.
Roger's family says their son was already being treated by multiple therapists.
Nobody would do the types of things that happened last night unless there was some form of mental illness.
But because Roger...
So think about that, what they just said. Their son was already being treated by mental health professionals. Was mental health really the deviating factor? If you listen to this manifesto, you're going to see a lot of mental health issues that just jump out at you. I've read the manifesto, like I said, on other lives, and I suggest that you go and you look at those lives and see exactly for yourself what type of mindset does it really take to be able to kill. This person lays it all out for you from beginning to end. You call it the retribution.
Was never institutionalized for mental illness. It was legal for him to buy those 3 handguns along with hundreds of bullets. And his actions in those videos were so troubling, his parents alerted police. They went to his apartment less than a month before Friday's attack.
The deputies contacted the suspect at the time, found him to be polite and courteous. He downplayed the concerns for his welfare, and the deputies cleared the call.
So think about that. The police went to his residence, the residence where he would later kill his roommates. He was courteous, he was polite. There it is, the chameleon effect. There's nothing wrong with me, I'm fine, everything's great. Within a couple of days, there would be 3 bodies located in his residence of knife wounds. So it isn't always the appearance that makes you or denies you being a killer.
It's not clear if police could have done anything more.
At an alarming rate, law enforcement are being asked to be law enforcers and psychiatric social workers.
But Roger himself offered one clue, writing, "If they had demanded to search my room, that would have ended everything." A lot of people seem to have some insight into Roger's life, family, friends, therapists, and police, but only one person, Elliot Roger himself, seemed to have the whole picture. David.
Clayton, thank you. Our coverage of the deadly rampage throughout the night at abcnews.com. And of course, first thing in the morning, right here on Good Morning America.
So think about that. I'm going very quickly with these to show you exactly who these people are based on their crimes, not really getting into the mindset. I've already done those lives, so if you wanna learn about any particular one that I'm going over, I want you to go into the library and I want you to really take a look at it because we deep dive in those lives, or I deep dive, and I go really into the mindset, the manifestation of their behaviors, their actions, and everything else. Here's another one. This one was nicknamed the Gainesville Ripper. His name is Danny Rowland, and this was called The Devil in Gainesville. I want you to take a look at all these that I'm showing you, and I want you to think about what the correlation is between them all, because many people are discounting a case because of physical appearance, bullying, whatever you want to call it. And once again, like I said in the other one before I got booted, I'm not claiming ignorance or smarts in this whatsoever. Your opinion is your opinion. I'm just merely showing you the correlation between some of the famous killers that we've had in our country.
It stands as one of 1990's most shocking stories.
18-year-old Sonia Larson was found murdered.
17-year-old Christina Powell.
18-year-old Krista Hoyt.
Early this morning. 3 young women, all students, have been found.
There was mutilation.
Manny Tebow, Tracy Paul is
brutally murdered at their apartment.
And I say, hello, Satan.
This was the ultimate nightmare for.
This one is one of the most scary ones if you were on college campuses, because he was right there. He was right there, and he was, I wouldn't say stalking, I would say he was hunting. The way they caught him was by miracle, honestly.
Parents who are sending their kids off to college. In a space of 3 days, one after another, students in apartments being killed, totally vulnerable.
Now that the death toll has reached 5, students are talking of returning home.
I'm terrified. I couldn't sleep last night. It's really scary.
What's the worst that could happen? Well, this was the worst that could happen.
Me and the devil.
They have a serial killer.
Serial killer is on the loose. It must be that old evil spirit.
I'm John Donvan, and in the early 90s, ABC News sent me to Gainesville, Florida to cover the story of the Gainesville student murder. It's one of the most horrifying stories that I had ever covered.
Today, people walk and wonder if he walks among them.
Me and the devil.
When I think of this case right here, I've always said it, there's a correlation between this one and the Idaho case, and amongst some other ones. I'm going to show you the next one. You're really going to see a correlation between Idaho and the next one that I show you. But this one is really disturbing because there's so much coincidence based on this individual's hunting of his prey.
Gainesville is a college town located in north central Florida. It's a beautiful area of the state.
My name is Paige Beck, and I've been here at the station for more than 31 years. We don't have high-rise buildings here. It still really has a small-town feel. The university plays a major role here. It's the major employer.
It's a really well-regarded research university and really large, beautiful campus.
It's known for its partying. The students come here with the idea that they're going to have lots of fun.
Football is definitely king.
So we're very student populated area. We have a large amount of apartment complexes.
A lot of houses and a lot of streets, but there's part of it that's just wooded. But once you're about 30 yards into these woods, you feel like you're in another place, in a secret, hidden place.
So it's an incredibly easy place to go undercover, especially at night.
So think about what he just said. It's easy to go undercover, especially at night. So think of some of the other crimes that we've heard about where the woods have been cover for individuals to not be seen.
During the summer, it's a little slower.
You could literally drive through town during the summer without hitting your brakes, probably.
Around the second week of August, there's a lot more activity. You'll see the traffic really pick up in Gainesville. The students are coming back. The energy of the city really picks up.
There was a lot of excitement over the start of a new semester, Gator season. The legendary band Fleetwood Mac of Go Your Own Way fame was booked to headline homecoming. You can go your own way. And two of the new students caught up in that excitement, Sonia Larson and Christina Powell. They were moving to Gainesville to begin classes.
My name's Allison Emery, and I was Christy Powell's best friend. Christy and I met in high school. Our graduation was outside.
Yeah, let us see the diplomas. Are they for real?
They are for real. We were just so excited about the next phase of life, about moving.
So think about being young on campus, moving on with the next phase of your life, being excited, going to a college town with a small town feel. These two had just gotten to campus when their lives tragically ended.
Forward about college.
All books, tuition, room, and board paid in full. Compliments of Mr. of Mom and Dad.
As soon as she knew she'd been admitted to Florida, she was all Gator all the time. She got a beautiful gold Gator necklace from her parents as one of her graduation presents. Never took it off.
I promise me, 4 years from now, y'all will be going down to Gainesville. If you make it down the aisle, we'll be there.
My name is Ada Larson, and I'm the mother of Sonia Larson. Sonia and I were very, very close.
You've got silver in my hair.
So, you know, a lot of families have these home movies as memories. They have these memories that will be ever etched in their hearts. The visual representation of a time that will never be again. The loving memories of the loved ones that are no longer here because somebody chose to be the wrong place at the right time.
Sonia was the dream child.
Don't worry, be happy.
Everybody who knew her said she was an incredibly sweet, lovely girl. She was a lot more reserved, and she liked to work with children. So these two young women, they had met over the summer doing some courses, and they decided to be roommates.
We looked and looked for a dorm that she could go to because I hated the fact that she was going to be in an off-campus location. But we couldn't find any. They were booked full.
So Christy Powell and Sonia Larson had found an apartment in a complex. It's called Williamsburg Apartments.
So this was move-in day for them. And this was going to be their first night in their new place together.
Christy's sister and brother-in-law, as I
Their first night moving in. Think about that. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this on replay, think about what I'm saying. These individuals that killed didn't give their victims time to enjoy their lives because they were on a mission. Their urge, the clock was ticking in their minds. These girls had just moved in and they were murdered.
I recall it, we're supposed to bring her bedroom set and all the things that she was supposed to have in the apartment. And so they arrived Saturday morning and nobody answered the door. There were some notes on the door from friends like, hey, we went out.
We had no way of reaching her. The phone hadn't been installed yet. She hadn't called us. And finally, the Powells, who lived closer, went over there.
Her parents came down, to figure out where she was and what was going on. And they banged on the doors and ultimately, I think, got a maintenance person at the apartments to ask to be let in.
I was wondering if it would be possible for me to have an officer take me. Okay, what's the problem there? I have two girls. The parents suspect that something's wrong with them or they've disappeared or something. I'm just not sure. And my manager informs me not to go in by myself, but to get something by police officer. Okay, go ahead. We'll have to remind me too.
And an officer, Ray Barber, went to the door, and Powell's were behind them.
My maintenance man broke the door in, and I was standing behind him, and the deputy sheriff was behind me. Then when he went in, I followed him into the apartment and saw the young lady on the bed, and you could see her in a bad position. And I just turned around and walked out. My maintenance man, unfortunately, ran down the stairs screaming, "Oh God, oh God." He came out and he threw up. And the sad, sad part about it is we had the parents behind us on the stairs.
When he came out throwing up, the parents knew that something was not good.
I mean, and if you take into account that emotional attachment, obviously to their daughters, to the daughter's new roommate, how could you ever sit behind a screen and discount that human emotion that goes into losing somebody? From somebody being taken from you that you loved. How could you ever have any kind of message to these families that they might be involved? How could you ever have a message to these parents of missing children that one of them or both of them could be involved? How could you ever speculate that this kind of event that happened to these families has anything but trauma written all over it?
I need a supervisor, an ID, criminalistics, and detectives to respond down here to this apartment.
The police officers who went in there would later say that they had never seen a crime scene like this. Two women who had had a terrible ending to their lives. Downstairs, Christina Powell was lying, having been stabbed to death, having been raped. He had mutilated her breasts.
Sonia Larson, who was on her waterbed. She had multiple stab wounds to her arms and her torso.
And there's something that the officer noticed right away that was very unusual. She was posed, all her clothes were off. She was lying back on the bed with her feet on the floor, and her hair was fanned out, almost like a display, a shocking value.
And think about that. Doesn't that sound like something that we have deep dove into for the past 3 years? Does that not sound eerily similar to some other crime that you've heard about?
I screamed, and my husband didn't know what was happening. He came out and took the phone. It was just a horrible, horrible day. We just got in the car and headed for Gainesville. And I had to have my husband stop the side of the road, and I looked outside, and the stars were shining, and I just looked at God, and I said, "God, why? How could this possibly happen? Why did this happen?"
Waylon Clifton was the chief of police in Gainesville, and he gets the call, and I recall him telling me that he didn't really want to have to go down on a day when he was home watching football, but the officer who called him said, "No, you've got to get here."
Two white females that are deceased in this apartment right behind us. My great concern as I went home that evening, rather late, was that we have an individual that, in my mind, personally, I felt would hit again.
Sheriff's officials will only say the woman appears to be in her late teens.
And you know what's sad is, I don't know if they're going to show it in this, but I'm going to tell you what goes on with this case because I followed it thoroughly. What's sad is he could have been in these woods watching his handiwork because he was homeless. He lived in the woods in a tent, not far from this location, not far from campus. After this murder, 4 other people were murdered, 3 other women and 1 male who lived in the residence with the other three females. None of them, the two weren't a couple that I remember, but there was four other murders after these two before they caught Mr. Rowling. Similar thing also to a case that we follow now, right? As the jury was being assembled, he fled out. He got the death penalty, as I remember. But I believe that it was turned over and he was given life. And as far as we know, he's still in life. He's still doing life in Florida. He's in bad shape health wise, as we've been told. But Danny Rowling is a carbon copy of an individual that many people idolize and claim is so unique. If you know anything about this case, he used a K-bar knife. He was very meticulous. He was very experimental with the bodies. He would pose them, so to speak. Just very, very diabolical and very evil.
Then we found out about the third murder.
Just 8 hours after the first two.
So we knew that there was a monster out there.
But now the bloodlust was just up to a whole different level.
So I want you to go and look at the Danny Rowling story in my library if you're interested in that one. Here's another one. They keep going because no matter what people want to believe, the Koberger case was not the first, and it will not be the last. This person right here are just as scary as all the ones that I'm showing you right now. His name is Stephen McDaniel. Let's start with his interview. Let me go ahead and put that up on screen. If you're watching with me, thank you so much. I know there's a lot of graphic imagery and stuff like that, but you know what? If you're watching my channel and you've watched it long enough, you understand, you can handle it. Here we go.
They first interviewed McDaniel the day after Lauren Giddings was reported missing in June of 2011. Reporter Michelle Casada found him standing outside the apartment building where he and Giddings had lived, and that we now know was the scene of the crime. He talks about joining Giddings' friends to look for his law school classmate and how they entered her apartment to see if there was anything wrong. It was also the first time McDaniel found out that a portion of Lauren Giddings' body had been recovered by police from the dumpster where he had put it. Knowing now that McDaniel had murdered and dismembered Giddings, the interview provides a glimpse inside the mind of a killer as he builds his story and his alibi. Take a look.
Person that was living there? Yeah, Lauren was my neighbor. We're just trying to find out where she is at this point. I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I mean, the last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out, and no one's heard from her since.
Did you see her hang?
Well, let me give you a little background on these two individuals, Lauren and Stephen. They were both law students. They were living side by side in an apartment complex. Lauren had befriended Stephen because he was in their study group. Unbeknownst to her that he was stalking her. He was having sexual fantasies about her. How he ultimately killed her is he had stolen a key. He knew the maintenance guy at the apartment complex, somehow got the key to every apartment. Well, he would go into Lauren's apartment, rearrange stuff, steal stuff, personal belongings that they later found in his apartment after the investigators started investigating her murder. He went into her apartment. She was asleep. She was startled, awake. I guess it scared him, and he started strangling her. She said, "Stephen, what are you doing?" And he started strangling her. He killed her I don't know if chopping her up was part of the plan, but he chopped up her body, dismembered her, put various pieces all around campus, dumpsters, but one of the torso area, he threw it away right down, not far from his apartment. And that's what this interview is going to show you. Watch.
Out with anyone at the time, anything like that?
I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I haven't seen anything. I mean, I've always hear noise outside, but it's just people walking by pretty much.
And she just recently graduated from Mercer?
Yeah, she and I we were both JD students. We graduated back in May.
What kind of person was she? I mean, what did you see her?
I mean, she's as nice as can be. I mean, very personable, very much a people person.
Do you know anybody
So think about that. He is the killer. Do you see any behavioral things right here as he's talking to this reporter? He had just killed this woman, dismembered her. And he is talking about Lauren as if she's still alive and being manipulative and being into the moment, the chameleon effect.
Maybe she might have had somebody that might want to hurt her.
No, we don't know where she is. I mean, the only thing we can think is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her. Because we went over. One of her friends had a key. We went inside and tried to see if there was anything amiss, but I mean, she had a door jamb that was sitting right by it, so there was no sign that anyone broke in. I mean, the door was locked when everyone.
See, listen to the details that he's giving. He is giving these details in firsthand knowledge. If you're listening to what he's saying rather than looking at him, you understand. He is reliving the crime and giving this reporter details in a way he doesn't implicate himself.
Got here. I mean, we just don't know where she is.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of. I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body.
Had you seen anything there? Had you seen anything there? I mean, we don't know if this is the same person.
See, all of a sudden, that snapped him back into reality because he was getting off on the killing of her. Obviously, she brought him back to reality. Oh shit, they found the body. Now what? Look at him. He went from being Mr. Helpful to, oh damn, I'm in trouble.
You know what I mean? Like, they took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. That's how we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
And that is the most classic examples of a killer being caught on camera in the moment. You saw the change of his reaction from being confident, wanting to know where his friend was, to, oh shit, you caught me. Here's another one. I don't know if you guys remember this one, but it hasn't been too long. Her name is Laken Riley. She's the individual that went out for a run and was attacked by an illegal. And he was hunted for a long time. He initially wasn't going to kill Laken. She wasn't the intended target. He was stalking out an apartment complex not far from the trail where Laken was running, and he couldn't get in. So he saw Laken, followed her, and I guess was attempting to sexually assault her. and he strangled her. Here's some of the
The
body.
judge who will decide his fate watched this newly released body camera video in court, where police are seen waking up 26-year-old Jose Ibarra and questioning him about the murder in the jogging trails near his apartment. The officers are seen asking him about scratches and bruises on his arms and face.
What injuries did you observe?
I noticed on his right arm, his bicep, there was a scratch, which I identified as a potential defensive wound. On his left arm, he had a forearm scratch that was very similar, which in my mind, looked like fingernail scratches to me.
For many in this country, Ibarra has become a case in point in the argument over immigration. He's from Venezuela and illegally entered the country 2 years ago. He's pleading not guilty to the murder of 22-year-old Laken Riley, who was killed in Athens, Georgia, while she was out jogging in February. Police say she fought for her life. Her mother broke down in court when prosecutors shared the video of Riley trying to call 911 for help. Investigators testified that they found Ibarra's fingerprints on Riley's cell phone.
Hello, this is Clark County 911. Can anyone hear me?
She placed that call at 9:11 a.m. Authorities say her heart stopped beating 17 minutes later. This case will be decided by a judge. It is not a jury trial. If this accused murderer is convicted, he could spend the rest of his life in prison. Steve Osunsanmi, ABC News, Atlanta.
Okay. Well, there I've given you a multitude of examples from different decades, different killings, different variations, but they're all the same. They end up with an innocent person dying at the hands of these individuals. And yet, we have a fascination in this world with individuals who kill other people for whatever reason. I'll never understand it. I'll never get it. But maybe it's not for me to get. And I'm okay with that. And people are who they are. And I'm okay with that as well. But I wonder if it ever happened to them, would they be as open-minded about the killer? Would they be okay with having to continuously ask questions about this individual that murdered their child? And all these individuals that I've spoken on tonight were in the prime of their life. They've just finished high school. They were starting college. They were about to graduate college, doing the college thing, while somebody in the foreground was not thinking about their future. They were thinking about their urge, their mentality, their inability to be who they were, their mental illness, whatever you call it, which caused them to attack another who they either knew for a long time because they had been watching them, or even those that may have called them friends, like in Lauren's case with Stephen McDaniel. She felt pity on him to the point where she included him in their study group. While everybody else was shutting him, she was showing grace. And how was she repaid? By being strangled by the one person who gave you grace. You know, a lot of times these stories happen this way. They happen in ways that nobody really understands. And many times we don't take the time to understand the living. We focus more on the dead when it comes to true crime. The only time we seem to focus on the living is when we're not believing that the individual could or could not have done these things. Whenever science, whenever police investigations, whenever the judicial system has stepped in and given them the final decision, whether it be death, whether it be life imprisonment, or like in Elliot Rodgers' case, he took the easy way out. He shot himself after shooting down a street, down a deli, killing multitudes of people just because his vision of fitting into society didn't match up with reality. And you know, a lot of times that's the sadness of this whole thing. People ask, well, what if somebody would have befriended these people? Okay. What if they would have befriended these people? Would that have changed the outcome? I don't think so. I don't think so because how are you going to befriend a killer who ultimately ends up killing you? How are you going to befriend somebody who you're going on your morning jog and out of the blue, out of the woods, jumps out somebody at you, pulls you into the woods, attempts to strip your clothes off, end up choking you as you're fighting for your life? How do you befriend somebody like that? How do you befriend somebody like that? Hey, Carl, thank you for listening. How do you befriend somebody like that? You know, it's devastating to think that in Ted Bundy's case, all the people he ran across, because he was able to include you into his circle, kind of manipulate and groom you into the point where you felt safe around him, or you wanted to help him because he wore a fake cast or his arm in a sling. You wanted to be the noble person to help this older gentleman needed help get his boat in the water or get his boat out of the water. And ultimately, that cost a female's life. You know, when I went to the crime museum, I saw Ted Bundy's BMW Beetle, Volkswagen, whatever it is. And you could see in that vehicle, you could see that there was no seat in the right hand side, just like people had stated. There was no seat. It was taken out for a purpose. That way you could abduct somebody and you could lean them down and nobody would be able to see them. It's just terrible to think about, you know? And these aren't the only killers they have killed on campus. There's the individual, I can't think of his name, um, Syracuse. The one that went into the dorms and started shooting up the dorms. Um, I can't think of his name. He was that Asian man. But he went into the dorms and started shooting. Might have not even been at Syracuse, but there's been shootings all over. Illinois, maybe. I don't know where it was, but that Asian man went into the dorms and just started shooting people, killing them at will. And we say, is mental health the issue? Do we have a mental health problem? Do we have a gun problem? Do we have a knife problem? I believe we have a morality problem when it comes to individuals who have that ability to not want to be a part of society, that they want to live on the outskirts of society and blame everything and everyone for their position in life. Like with Danny Rowland, the dude was living in the woods in a tent, writing country music on his acoustic guitar, which they ultimately found the tape. He kept the clothing that he wore during these attacks on these people that he murdered. He got pulled over on a traffic violation. Otherwise, he may had still been killing and posing his victims. Hey, Grandma. Hey, Carl. How y'all doing? Thank you for being here. You know, it's interesting to believe that in the true crime genre that we look at these crimes with such innocence when they're not innocent. The only innocent that was there was the victims that were taken away. Their lives, the family that were left to pick up the pieces, the mothers that were crying on camera, as you saw. No matter what your stance is on families and grieving and stuff like that, or people that survived, because we had some surviving victims that I showed you. You know, whatever your thoughts are on that, it's your thoughts, and that's okay. But I want you to think of how these women were talking in the beginning when they were talking about how their lives were changed forever. You know, I talk about Idaho all the time. I talk about Idaho a lot because I just like everyone else, is fascinated with that case. And I was driving around today because I posted some shorts about, whatever, random stuff. And something hit me because somebody said, this is the person that didn't call 911. And I thought to myself, that is probably the thing that that person thinks about every waking moment of her life. Survivor's guilt is awful, I believe. I don't know if any of you that are listening in chat or any of you that may listen on replay have ever had some kind of survivor's guilt, whether it be in other areas. Think about 9/11. Think about the people that got there late. Think about the people that didn't show up to work that day. There was countless people that were working that maybe shouldn't have been there because somebody was sick or somebody had an emergency or somebody had a doctor's appointment. Think of those people that were supposed to be there that weren't, that ended up living while these other people they found out ended up dying. Would that not be something traumatic that you would carry with you the rest of your life? And I'm not trying to compare this to Idaho. Don't get it twisted. Not trying to compare it. I'm not trying to vindicate. Not trying to do any of that. I'm just speaking, okay? Giving you examples because it is an awful thing, I believe. I can't imagine, like, let me give you another example. I graduated in 1991. In 1990, we had two best friends. I knew them. I played football with them. I knew them well. They hung out all the time. They're best friends. Well, we had a railroad track that ran through our small town. And back then, they still had those glass conductors that, conducted the electrical current, I guess, to the railroad or whatever. I'm not an engineer or any of that, so I don't know. But they still had those glass conductors. Well, these boys were busting out those conductors. They're being mischievous, of course, in a small town. You really don't have much to do. So that's what they were doing. Well, one of the boys stumbled upon a live wire. I don't know what he was thinking, but somehow or another, it grabbed a hold of him. He got too close to it, or he grabbed a hold of it, not really realizing that it was live. He starts getting electrocuted. The other friend runs up, hits him with the shoulder, knocks him off, and he starts getting electrocuted. The friend that knocked him off ends up perishing and dying. The other boy lives. The current was so badly it exited through his ring finger. His senior year ring was blown completely off his finger. That guy was never the same after that. Never the same. He dove into addiction. He dove into all these type of things, serious depression. They were best friends. And his best friend knocked him off to save his life and ended up perishing in the process. Well, the guy that he saved ultimately killed himself. And so think about that a little bit. Think about that. It's not necessarily one time that it's ever happened in history. It happens every day. We just don't hear about it as much. Carl says, I'm not that far from Idaho University. Several ladies have went missing from there. Yeah, I believe you. I believe you. College campuses, for whatever reason, are an easy picking for an individual who wants to do harm to women or men. I've never diluted my thought that college campuses are easy prey for people. And it's unfortunate because people come from all over the world. Oh, Indiana. I'm sorry. Indiana. My bad. Think about that. People come from all over the world to attend these universities. You don't know who's coming on campus. You do backgrounds, I think, but they really don't know who is on their campuses. You know what I mean? Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. Thank you for coming over and giving my channel a chance. I appreciate that. I appreciate that wholeheartedly. You know, this isn't an easy topic because no matter if you started at Ted Bundy or you went even further, which I went with Whitman on the University of Texas campus, the shooter on the tower. I mean, you could just name countless people that have manipulated people. Look at Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer was a individual who would frequent bars preying on his next subject. Invite them home, do what he did, and just carry on with daily living. Imagine being friends with some of these people that ultimately you realize, oh my God, he was a killer. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Being around for an individual that ultimately turned out to be a killer. There were survivor stories on some of the earlier of this video that I just did. I hope you go back and give it a chance because it tells you exactly the correlation, not only with surviving victims of these killers, but also the individuals that were left behind that were best friends with these people, that were speaking on these people. You know what I mean? And it gives you a different perspective when you actually hear about what their thoughts were about these individuals. You know, that age old adage where you say it's the quiet ones you need to worry about, I don't think so anymore. I think it's about those that try so hard to be the ones fitting in that are covering up, being the chameleon, as I like to say, the ones that like to be charismatic, have control issues, have narcissism, those types of situational events. You might need to watch out for them. Tomorrow night, I'm going to have a very special guest, and we're going to continue talking about this because she is a professional in the area of this true crime genre. And also, I've asked her to speak on some of the cases that she may have investigated on her own regarding some deaths on campus. You know, if you really want to learn about some of these cases that I profiled tonight on this live, go into my library. There's plenty of them. They're under the lives tab. If you can't find them there, they're under the video tabs. There's stuff on Bundy. There's stuff on Dahmer. There's stuff on John Wayne Gacy. There's stuff on Stephen McDaniel. There's stuff on Elliot Rodger. There's stuff on a lot of different people. that I've done multitudes of lives on. So if you ever get bored on those cold nights and you really want to learn a little deeper about these individuals than just the mainstream media stuff, why don't you dive in? Give my channel a chance, if you will. Try to, I'm going to tell you, in the very beginning of my channel, I've been up and down with a lot of different things, but I've kind of got it all together. 2026 is a different year, and I know that certain things have happened with my channel with different moderators, different people that have been in charge of certain things and been in my channel. I'll probably have a bad name out there in the YouTube street, but give me a chance. You won't be disappointed, I promise you. I promise you. You will not be disappointed. And thank you so much for giving me a shot tonight and coming in to chat. Almost to 10,000. Otherwise, I still wouldn't be here. That's a goal for me. Hopefully, we find 10,000 together. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed the live. Be sure to tune in tomorrow night. I believe it's 7 Central. If you're in Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern. I believe that is the time, whichever time change that is. But thank you so much. Y'all have a wonderful night. Maestro, cue that music.